Hi everyone, it's Teresa Green, founder and owner of Slow Paths Wellness, and it's another Mindful Monday. Today I wanted to talk about the idea of spirituality as it relates to mindfulness, not necessarily any other part of life. So this week has been very busy for me, as have the past couple of weeks, because I have some things within my own religious beliefs that I follow that are coming up soon. And it's been exciting, but it's also meant that it's been a little bit distracting in the short term. But it brought me back to the idea of why I do these things. And part of the reason I do them is because it allows me to have a vision of life that goes beyond the day-to-day things. And it gives me the opportunity to see life as more than whether the light turned green when I needed it to, or whether my bank balance says what I want it to, or whether I have to stand in a long line or not, and maybe that might cause a problem later on. It gives me kind of an overarching comfort or sense of stability that goes beyond, so that my day-to-day things don't have to have the same huge dramatic import that they sometimes seem like they do when we're kind of just caught up in the day-to-day life. Now, I've read a lot of books, I've heard a lot of podcasts, I've taken classes on all kinds of things for longevity training, for mental well-being, for emotional well-being, for how your mental and emotional well-being affects your physical well-being. And pretty much across the board, whether I'm listening to something from an endocrinologist talking about insulin sensitivity or PCOS, or whether I'm listening to a mindfulness instructor or meditation instructor, or also listening to podcasts and reading books by theologians, pretty much all of them talk about the incredible benefits of allowing your mind to step outside of your day-to-day life and into the things that are important to you. So, if you're not someone who has really had that kind of thing in your life, if you don't have a church or a religious organization you go to, you can get the effects of mindfulness and get that idea of being beyond your little world where things can sometimes seem so important, and then when you look back on it, when something really big happens in your life, you realize, whether I got that 50 cents back on that coupon didn't really matter when you're faced with a loved one being ill or something like that. So how do you cultivate that as part of your mindfulness? There's all kinds of ways to do it. The really basic thing is to find something that gives you a reason beyond your day-to-day requirements, your day-to-day checklist to wake up in the morning. So in coaching, we talk about that when we tell people, what would you do if you couldn't fail? Or give them a list of adjectives or help them put together their own list of adjectives that describes who they are and who they aren't, because it lets them know these are the values that I hold. I know Brene Brown does a lot of that with her books. Danielle Laporte does a lot of that with her podcasts and books and information. And so that's kind of the first step, is to find out, okay, well, who am I? When you take the day-to-day schedule away, when you take the bill-paying part of me away, who am I? Who is Teresa Green? Who are you? And use that, who you want to be. Who am I and who do I want to be? Use those two things to figure out what your big picture, your big vision is. I've been reading a book called Hero on a Mission by Donald Miller. I couldn't remember his first name. By Donald Miller. And he even goes so far as to say that if you want to have a life that feels like it's fulfilling, just having a mission and then honing it as you get closer to it. And I've actually heard other people say that too, that honing your mission helps you. You don't necessarily have to have your grand idea of everything in the world exactly how you want it to be, where you're moving to a plan that will never change, but just having that idea. So for our mindfulness thing today, let's take a couple of moments. Let's just sit, as we always talk about when we do an exercise. Breathe in a little bit. Sigh back out, or breathe out, and just do a few of those breaths. So in and out, and in and out. And as you do that, let your body calm down. It helps me to picture my focus, my energy, what my thoughts are doing, to come from up here to start moving down towards my belly, just below my belly button. And as if that's kind of where my seat is, because that's where, if you went down to kind of where you're sitting down, that's kind of like where the throne part is. Little pelvic floor kind of sits there like a little throne. Like you're sitting in that. And so that's kind of allowing yourself to sink into sort of your basic self. not the self that wonders whether your socks match your shirt, or whether your car's clean enough to take the boss for a ride, or whatever. Just the part of you that's just you, and that you can accept as just you, which is probably a whole other coaching class, not just a mindfulness exercise. But there's things you can find online about that, or you can contact me and we can talk about that. But just giving yourself permission to be you. Now, picture yourself and say what's actually important to you. And if you don't have an answer to that right away, that's okay. Picture yourself 50 years from now. And that doesn't matter whether you're 5 years old or whether you're 100 years old. Picture yourself 50 years from now, because it's quite possible you could be alive 50 years from now. Even if right now statistics aren't in your favor, we're making new things towards longevity every day, new ideas towards wellness every day. And it also just gives you that idea of getting your mind away from day-to-day life to the future. So picture yourself in 50 years. Where would you like to be? Who would you like to be? What would you like people to describe you as? How would you like them to describe you? What I would like, and sometimes this varies a little bit from day to day as it kind of tweaks, but for the most part, I would like people to think of me as a wise source of comfort, of joy, that I'm someone that they can come to when they feel unsettled or uncertain, and I can help them to find peace, and within that peace, joy. And in my own personal life, I think of myself as someone who builds a life where joy and calm and peace and the ability to share and give freely and happily and with joy and without feeling like you're being taken from, where you have a good boundary system. All those things are who I strive to be. I strive to be someone that is very safe, that is very clear to people so they know what I do want, what I don't want, how much I care about them, and also the things I won't accept from them. I want to be someone who lives my life with that little bubble of joy, of gratefulness as much as possible. I want to be someone who, when I come to a problem, I can face it with calmness, and I can face it with the idea that no matter what the outcome is of this problem, I'm going to give it the best that I have, and I'm going to do my best to do it in a way that helps me be dignified and also lets other people see a model of being dignified and imperfect. I want to be okay with making mistakes, because mistakes are how you learn. And that's something that all of those things are things that I've been, as I come to realization, trying to move towards, even if it wasn't consciously, for my entire life. And only just now do I really kind of feel like I'm kind of in the groove and getting there. So for you, do the same thing. Just think, okay, picture yourself when you're where you want to be, and who are you? What would you do if you had this future self sitting beside you? What would a conversation sound like between the two of you? What do you think that the future you might say to you? Would they say, maybe you need to be better at taking care of yourself. You know that you enjoy walks in the sunshine. Go ahead and do that, because the older you get, the more you realize you don't have as many of those walks in the sunshine left, and that every moment that you don't do that thing that gives you joy and gives you life is stealing something from you that you will regret one day. By the opposite side, spend as much time as possible with loved ones, pets, whoever the people are in your life that are important to you, not just for what you take from them, but from what you're able to give them. And to remember each one of those moments of joy, this future person may tell you, seal that up deep inside of you, because that's the thing that'll help you when you have a hard day, when you have a hard week, when you have a health problem that you don't know how it's going to turn out at the end. Give yourself the joy of those things. And when you give yourself the joy of those things, because present you might be saying, how am I going to pay the bills if I can't work 60 hours a week and I don't have the energy to do that and do all these cool things future me is telling me to do? Well, future you would probably respond with something like, when you're coming from a place of joy and peace and happiness and confidence, it's so much easier to get the things done that you need to get done in the time that you have. It's also easier to not be seeking things that may be detrimental to you, whether that's more money than you need if it means you have to sacrifice your health to get it, or if it means some prestige thing that you're using to try to bolster your self-worth because you don't feel like you are good enough without the fancy car or just the right brand of shoes or whatever. So for a spiritual idea for mindfulness, I suggest taking some time, getting quiet, thinking about what's important to you today, and then imagining what that person in the future who is you, who will be you if you move towards the things that you want and love and are trying to live that with integrity and authenticity, what does that person suggest for you? So if we're going to close again, just sit for a moment with that feeling of being who you really want to be. And you can pick one part of that or you can pick all of it, whichever you want. And just for about 5 seconds, I'll count it off and you just sit in there and just allow yourself to feel that. So get yourself kind of in that mindset. Okay, here's what I want, here's what how I picture myself. And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5. Now, kind of gather yourself around, feel a little kind of hug for yourself. Take a deep breath and go out into the day today, really pausing every now and then to remember, who do I want to be in this situation? Because being mindful of that will give you so much more joy, peace, and really, for most people, productivity in your day-to-day. Have a wonderful week.